from people to systems, and from employment to reinvention.
I found HR at work because my father was in charge of a Christian organization, and he was the CEO.
Some careers begin with ambition. Others begin with watching someone leading with humanity.
His way of dealing with people was so nice. I admired that.
But what happens when the workplace changes faster than people can adapt?
When I started working at the NGO, it was a different world. Because of what is going on in the world right now, I was interested just to know how to understand how the situation is affecting us.
When the world shifts and you are forced to understand people differently,
as you advance in HR, you begin to understand the impact of each person's work financially and how the organization plans for a role. Why do you want position X as opposed to?
Behind every organization, their decision nobody sees, the numbers, the pressure, the cost of every hire.
The budget you have is for the project, not for administration. So my interest grew in staffing.
Because one delayed decision can cost millions.
For example, for the tax, our penalties if we were late would be about 10 million per month.
And sometimes even the people managing the systems become affected by it.
Our company was going through a restructuring. We had redundancies done and we were all affected. So I was out in the job market.
I don't know if you've ever felt stuck in your career and you have enough experience and you have enough skill set. You feel like I have a lot of skill set, I have a lot of experience, but what I'm currently doing, it's not utilizing my skill set. I don't know if you've ever felt like I want to move to the next step in my career, but to be very honest, I just don't know what the step is. I just don't even know how it looks like. So you're just in between where you are like, I want a next move, which I don't know what it is. I don't know if you have ever felt one of those, or even you tell me, I've felt all of them, right? So hold on that. There is a very big shift that is happening in the employment world. And this is a shift. People are moving from what you call the 8 to 5 or the 9 to 5, depending, right? Into something a bit different. Something strategic, something meaningful, something very purposeful, and something very, very aligned. So fractional role is an employment type where you are employed in a particular company, but not fully. You are employed partially. For example, you work maybe for 2 or 3 days in that company, or even you work for a particular number of hours in a month in that particular company. It's not restricted for you to have one company's in fractional role. You are allowed to work for more than 1, 2, 3 company at a go. So you can have like 3 jobs at the same time. If you have the feeling, I feel like I'm not impacting, fractional roles will sort that, because not one company. If one company you feel is not enough, you get another industry, another company, and you get the fulfillment. I want to give you 3 things that you need to consider before diving into what you call the fractional roles. The first thing is what you call experience. You should have enough experience before diving into fractional roles. Because remember, I've just said that in fractional roles, you work for a very short period of time, but what you want to see is results. So it means we are crushing a lot of hours and giving you that scope to work in a very short period of time. So if you don't have enough experience, if you don't have enough techniques to bring results, then you'll not thrive. The second thing that you need to consider or you need to have is what you call niching or alignment, right? Remember, in fractional role, what is measured is not only the input in terms of the period that you work, because some of these fractional roles, you work virtually, right? So what is measured is the results that you bring. So hence, you need to work in a space that you have a lot of alignment, because this is what you say in productivity. When you do something that is aligned with you, definitely the level of productivity will be high. And I want to give an example so that you can be able to understand when I talk about alignment. Somebody is an HR. An HR can do payroll, can do compliance, can do staffing, can do budgeting, advisory, and etc., right? So you analyze yourself and ask yourself, amongst maybe the 4 that I've just mentioned, which one do I really find a lot of traction in it? So maybe I find traction in compliance. So then you package yourself as an HR who is very good in compliance, and that is what you bid for in fractional role. The third thing is what you call packaging, right? Remember, fractional role is not like a job that you'll write a CV and get an interview and get the job. Not at all. Fractional role is not like a business, right? That maybe you'll just go and do a proposal and you pitch. It's not purely a business. It's a hybrid of employment and business. So you need to understand, for me to get this opportunity, how do I package myself? For me to be able to have a brand that stands for a fractional roles, how do I position myself in the market, right? So those are the main things that you need to consider when you're diving into fractional role. But allow me to give you the last one, which I call it a bonus, right? Most of the time when we're getting into fractional role, we come from a background of 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 employment, right? And hence, you might have the fear of what will happen when I go to this place where maybe I don't have the whole packs like the way I used to have in my previous role, right? What will happen when I go to this company where I'm not fully employed into it? So you might have the fear of, getting into it. So that is why I give the last point and I say, when you want to get into fractional roles, can you have something that we call action plan? Know when to start, how to start, and how to dive yourself in, right? So those are the 4 things that you just need to factor in. You need to consider before getting into fractional role. So for this particular conversation, I was able to have a guest who is an amazing lady that was in employment world for a whole period of 20 good years. So she had enough experience, all right? But all of a sudden, her career journey was cut short. And she was in this point of, now, where do I go? 20 years, I've never looked for a job. So I don't even know how to look for jobs. 20 years, I've never gone for interviews. I don't even know if I get an interview, how I'm going to perform. But what she decided to do, she decided to get into fractional roles. So I want us to dive into the conversation. So who is this lady that we are seeing here? This lady who is smiling, right? Yes. This lady is called Grace. Yes. Can you put a description to your name? Who are you?
Professionally, my name is Grace Monica Serwanga. And I have a degree in business administration as well as a master's in peace studies and international relations. Why peace studies and international relations? Because of what is going on in the world right now, I was interested just to know how to understand how the situation is affecting us. And it also relates to human resource. Conflict and peace studies talk about humans. So for me, I felt this was a good relationship to match. I'm a HR professional, and when it comes to peace studies, how would I apply my peace and international relations to the human resource? And why peace again? I have been working in the NGO world for close to 20 years, from 2005 March, and up to now I am working still with the NGO world. So for me, this was a good blend of HR and the international market, because everything revolves around humans, and human resource talks about humans. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's quite interesting. When you hear somebody getting into HR, the next thing you'll hear, oh, I did psychology, right? For you, the diversity, going to understand the international markets, yes. I think it was a good trajectory, right?
Yes.
So, Grace, what inspired you first to do HR, even before getting to the master's bit you have just mentioned? Mm-hmm. By the fact that you are in the NGO, it gave you traction to do masters in that line. Mm-hmm. But what inspired you to get into HR?
Interestingly, I found HR at home, because my father was in charge of a Christian organization, and he was the CEO. Christian organizations do not use CEO, but let's put it that way. He was the CEO and in charge of all the administration, all the donor funding, and all that involved the process, HR, administration. So he would come home with his papers, and maybe sometimes when his secretary could not handle too much of the work, he would dictate. And I would write, and then we'd do the filing, we'd do the fax. You remember those days we had the fax, and to me it was so interesting. Then you'd have to fax to the US, and it was just very interesting for me. And then he had a lot of integrity, how he managed it, how he dealt with the people there. That was one thing I remember. His way of dealing with people was so nice. I admired that. Then my mom, the same thing. She was secretary to a ladies' ministry in our Anglican church. So she would write the notes, at a meeting, you scribble the notes. Then she would come home and say, let's sit down, let's clean up these notes and redo them well so that she could pass them on to the secretary. So that for me was the genesis of HR. And I would see how she would handle the people. Sometimes would go to the chair lady, they have good conversations. So for me, it was automatic. And I thought that was the way life is supposed to be. And then that seed was actually planted in me from that time. I saw the way my parents handled issues administratively, the way they handled the HR, both at work and how they managed all the HR processes. So I thought that is what that's what life is supposed to be. Additionally, we used to have this secretarial college. It was called Valley Secretarial. So I admired those girls. They would be looked so professional. They dressed up so well. And because I wanted to be an air hostess, but my dad refused. So I thought, okay, the girls at Valley Secretarial look similar to the air hostesses. So that is the direction to go. So at that time, that was secretarial. But with time, of course, that has been overtaken. Advances have come in. And by the time I was finishing school, then we had HR. So that is how I joined HR. So I did not struggle to think of what I wanted to do. The seed was planted in me right from home.
So when was this exposure? When did it start? When did you start grasping what your mom and dad are doing?
Yes.
When did
it started early, though I did not realize. I think by age 8, 9, they started inculcating these little things in us. The filing, my dad would say, file it in alphabetical order. He'd come home, arrange my papers. We are having a meeting. He'd have maybe, how you have 20, you're having a document, and so you have 20 pages of page 1, 20 pages. So he'd make me arrange. Little did I know that was something he was instilling, because you had to take page 1, page 2, page 3 in order, staple everything neatly for the meeting tomorrow morning. Same thing, my mom would come, tell me, make sure that the names of person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they have the documents ready, they're on the minutes. So that started as early as age 8, 9, 10. By the time I was 15, 16, I knew the Mothers Union teachings. In fact, my mother used to tell me, you're too young to do all this. I said, but you're the one who showed them to me, because I was able to, I could literally teach the ladies because I was writing the minutes. So it meant that I knew what was going on in the Mothers Union ministry. Not only in Kenya, by the way, even because they had their head office in London. I knew about that. Mm-hmm. So this journey started for me when I was 15, now the proper one. From 15, 16, I knew this is where I want to be. Mm-hmm. And I have loved it to date. Mm-hmm. I just enjoy working with people, mm-hmm. making systems run, mm-hmm. the compliance. Mm-hmm. It makes me so happy to see papers in order. It gets to that point whereby you have done your work over the years that everything concerning humans has to be spot on. Their minutes have to be ready, and it gives me a lot of joy when I work with humans. And when they smile, somebody comes to you, they are stressed, but you're able to take them through the HR process, as difficult as it might be, and they leave satisfied. Because you cannot, every organization has their policies. But if you're able to pass this information and make someone realize you are just doing your job, and you're doing it with good intention, as difficult as the situation might present itself. So that's where my journey started, and I enjoy HR. I think I will do it up to the last day when I can't read.
Interesting. Now, you went to school, you did HR, right?
Yes.
And you went to the job market.
Yes.
Where you are till today.
Yes.
Right?
Not to date, but yes, we will come to that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. In between, maybe after school, the first job, the second job, did you reach at a point where you started questioning, is this really what I thought it was? Or everything was just smooth?
Thank you. I started off After school, I was actually poached. So but during the attachment, I was poached by someone who had just started a business, and it was photocopying and binding and all that. And they did not have a HR. So that is where I started. And I worked for, I think, 3 months. And one day during the beginning of the computers, a businessman from a garage came with a long list of car models, a very long list. And he said, I need this done within 1 hour. I was like, okay, sir. I was doing my job. I was not seeing him as, anyone who would give me a job. So I said, okay, so how long will it take? I told him, maybe 2 days. No, please, try do it within a short while. I looked at it and said, this is a 30-minute job, but let me, just make it look like it's something really massive. Within 1 hour, he came back and found I had done the job. But it was car models. You put them in Excel and you sort. There was nothing dramatic about it, but I made it look like it's such a big... He came 4:00 in the evening. He came and said, I need to speak with you in my office. I went to the office. He offered me a job. And the following day I resigned because this was a solo entrepreneur. I resigned and I started working for this person. I worked there for about 8 years. And it was very fulfilling. I branched out a bit because it was a garage. I learned about vehicles, and I could tell you, your car needs this tire size. I didn't know, but theoretically, I was able to do it. So that was how my journey started, because the customers would come, I would talk to them, would sell them a tire, you'd sell them, whatever service part they need for their vehicle, and they would live happy. And that fulfillment was what increased my interest in HR. Because a customer would come, his car is squeaking, I don't know what. The ladies would come, they are so upset. My car was hit, I don't know what's happening. And we would sort them out, of course, with the help of my other colleagues. That I learned. And for me, what I had more interest in was now assuring the customers, having a good front face-to-face as their cars are fixed, and they would be so happy. So that my interest grew. Then after that, I saw the job at an NGO. I applied. I just applied and I got the position. When I started working at the NGO, it was a different world. And here it was a medical NGO, so we were dealing with the victims, maybe sometimes, depending on the project, either during conflict or during a medical emergency. And the results we would see, the fulfillment, the patients would come in, the clients would come in maybe a very difficult situation. After we managed them, then they would leave so happy. That fulfillment gave me the urge to keep on being better in HR and supporting my colleagues, because I'm not a medic, of course. So that made me support my medical colleagues even better, and they were able to give good results to the patients. Mm-hmm. So HR for me is like a baby to me. Mm-hmm. I don't like seeing people upset. Mm-hmm. And that interesting thing, yesterday I went out with some church members, and I offered them sweets. I always carry sweets. And one of them said, you are a HR. He said, how do you know? Why, you see, you're taking care of us. He said, it's in me. It's not anything I'm pretending. I just feel I have people, I need to take care of people. So HR is in my blood. That's the best. Like, if you think you cut me, just, all the blood here is HR. I love HR.
Yes. How many years now of experience?
Oh, 20 years. From 2005 March. Mm-hmm. I worked consistently from 2005 March to 2024. Mm-hmm. Then, unfortunately, our company was going through a restructuring. So it was moving from an ordinary project. Ordinary project means you just go out and see a need. Maybe there's a need of drug abuse and a project is opened. But the main mandate of that organization was emergencies. So the headquarters felt that we had gone out of the main mandate and they wanted to bring us back to the emergency situation. So we had redundancies done and we were all affected. So I was out in the job market. So that was until 2024. And from then I looked at what I have been doing. And I thought I would want to do some business, but again, not too much of business. I would want to engage my business with HR. I wanted to keep my HR. I did not want to lose it.
Yes. Okay, with the 20 years experience, Grace, quite interesting, even telling us that if we cut you, the blood will just come out right in itself.
Yes.
HR,
Yes,
right?
HR.
Yes, with the 20 years experience. And HR is wide, it's very wide.
Yes.
What are some of the areas in HR that really gave you a lot of traction, that you just felt aligning with them?
Yes.
What are some of the top areas?
Okay, I started off with a mix, HR and administration, because my role was more of an assistant when I just joined the organization. So this was ranging from administrative issues, the office, the tea. Then over the years, I grew progressively. Now I narrowed it down to a HR generalist. So the main areas were HRIS, the Human Resource Information System, both for national staff and international staff, because this was an INGO. So it was for the international staff, it was more about their work permits and all those issues related to their legal status in Kenya. For the national staff, it was their employment, right from onboarding, employee life cycle, up to offboarding. Another area which I was very good at was compliance. Compliance in terms of the tax laws, the labor laws and regulations, and employee engagement. Employee life engagement, their day-to-day work, their medical issues. So I was more on the front of the employee. I would be their go-to person. So that was my main area. HRIS, compliance, HRIS for both international and local staff, compliance, and a bit of administrative work. Yeah, because medical issues would be administrative yet HR. Yes.
So you found a lot of traction in those areas. A lot of
To
traction.
date, that is what I do. And then again, as I was growing, I managed to get into staff allocation, which led into budgeting. Because as you advance in HR, you begin to understand the impact of each person's work, the impact of each person's work financially, and how the organization plans for a role. Why do you want position X as opposed to, if I put it in words, what is the difference between an accountant and financial analyst? You see, now that is where you had to start. That is now where my role came in, because I developed interest, I developed knowledge, and then the effect of each of these positions on the project. When you're doing a project, when you're doing an emergency project, are you going to send a finance person? Are you going to send an accountant? Are you going to send an HR? But the budget you have is for the project, not for administration. So my interest grew in staffing. Yeah, that was the general word we used, staffing.
Yes. Just give us some of the three impacts that you can sit down right now and say, for the 20 years that I've worked as an HR, right?
Yes.
Impact number 3 was this. I did this and this and this.
Yes.
Impact number 2 was this and this and this. And this is one of those things that if there was an award, I'll even go for it.
Yes.
This was one of the things that I did, and it was very impactful.
Yes.
What are these 3 things that you feel like you really made magic in them?
Number 1 impact is compliance. I was able to manage the statutory payments with no penalty. Over the 20 years, when we were doing the payroll, we submitted all the MSSF, NHIF, and the pay as you earn on time by the deadline of the 5th. Why is this important? Because the penalties can be very stiff. For example, for the tax, our penalties, if we were late, would be about 10 million per month, and that no organization would want to submit late payments. So over the years, I am proud that we did not have any penalties on the statutories. Secondly was payroll. We always made payments on time, and the errors, I must say, would be 1% to 0.5%, because no human is perfect. But in terms of payroll, my payroll was always very accurate, with a very minimal chance of errors, maybe because of some delay or maybe something was overlooked. But I must say my payroll submission was at 99%. The last one is support to staff. Staff engagement. Staff engagement was excellent because one of the main areas I knew staff engagement was good was the medical policy, whereby I was able to give support to the staff. Communication between myself and the insurance company was always at 100%. Staff were served on time. The complaints initially were high, but after some time there were no complaints. So that, and people had good service. And how do I know there was good service? Initially, the staff utilization was very high, but we had good communication with the insurance company, and they would come and give the staff some talks on wellness, how to manage their cover. And with time, this reduced. It was very important because the higher the utilization, the higher the premiums. So this meant that I had a good relationship both with the staff at the medical insurance, which is always it can be a challenge to achieve. The staff want to go to hospital X, which would charge 5,000 or 1,000 for consultation, as opposed to hospital Y, which would charge 800. And this is just for a cold. So this kind of communication, open communication, and the staff, to make that staff awareness was essential. So I pride myself in that. Yeah. And the turnover, at the end of the day, staff turnover was, you cannot stop people from leaving, but the staff turnover was not very high because I exercised open door policy. And that made the staff feel confident. Sometimes they would share information which was not official, and you're wondering, okay, thank you, but I need to do my work. But the staff were comfortable to give you their challenges, and you just listen to them and they would be happy. So my staff engagement, I feel, was very good.
Hey, I know sometimes we feel very lonely in our career. I know sometimes we feel overwhelmed. And that is why we created a safe space for professionals like you. A space where you're not alone again. You have a community of like-minded people that work together, share together, and they grow each other. A space that there are support systems from coaches that enable you to be accountable in each and every goal that you're set in your career. A space where you are allowed to explore in your career. There's no judgment. You dive deep together with a coach. They show you the way, and then you come up with a clarity, and they hold your hand until the end. A space where we'll explore your holistic you, because sometimes we get stuck or we feel overwhelmed in our career, not because our job is too much, but because we are not holistic. And if you're not holistic, you'll always be overwhelmed. And finally, a space that will hold your hand. The space is called High Advice Inner Circle. This is a private membership community that is designed for professionals like you, who are looking for growth in their career and who are looking for holistic growth. Unfortunately, we have only limited slots, 10 to be precise. So if you want to be a member of this particular private community, I want you to hit the link at the description button and book a slot. Let's proceed with the conversation. Grace, after 20 years, you just decided to do a career shift, right? Yes. But an amazing career shift. You went to fractional roles. That is what you've just shared with me, right? Just share with me, Grace, or share with us, what made you to go to fractional roles? You just mentioned one when you were just having the conversation that there was a restructuring in the previous project, right? And all of you were given a redundancy letter, right? And you had to think something on your feet. How can I monetize my HR skills that I've acquired for 20 years, right? Yes. And how did you come to know about HR roles? You're going to tell us. Yeah. How did you start into, packaging yourself to HR roles? You're going to tell us. So what are some reasons, apart from that letter of redundancy, that made you to move to fractional roles?
The main reason is my passion for HR. I felt I was not done with HR. and I needed to contribute and to continue giving it back. But how was I to give it back? Because employment after 20 years has its own challenges. So I thought to myself, I have a niche in one or two areas. I would be able to capitalize on that. And then I wanted also to look at it as something I would enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I am not a business person. But I needed that flexibility of an entrepreneur. So I thought fractional role would be interesting because I would give back what I am good at my own pace. This means I can provide a certain service. If it is payroll administration, I can do the payroll and not that daily input of leave, but there's a level of payroll which needs a senior manager to go through and to authorize and to check the compliances in payroll, the taxation. I am able to do that. So I thought to myself, okay, maybe if I would go into an organization twice or 3 times a week or even once a month, depending on what can be done, it is my way of exercising my HR practice, giving back, and I also make money without being a full-time employee. That was, for me, I felt it would uplift me. I would still be active mentally. I would give back. And then some organizations, I realized, may not afford, they may not have the resources, financial resource to pay a full-time HR. So I thought and said, maybe that is a better way to support such organizations. I will not be a full-time employee. They will not be obliged to paying a full-time person, but they would get the same services. I had a debate with myself. Is it fractional role or consultant? Consultant is good. You make money. But consultant is just to come into an organization. This is the challenge. This is how you'll overcome it. And you leave. You don't see the end results. You are more of an advisor. Fractional role, you might identify and even dig yourself into it and do it and get results. You would see the results. For me, I would want the fulfillment of results, not just advising and my file is kept somewhere. I'm happy to do it as a more than advisory, to also be hands-on. So fractional role for me is it keeps me moving because roles are changing, laws are changing, and this I keep on implementing and it adds to my knowledge as well as to the people who I am serving. So fractional role for me worked very well. Then I would be independent. I don't have to wake up at 8 and 5. No. That independence after 20 years works well for me. Because you can imagine 20 years, 8 to 5, 8 to 5. I want to take leave, but when you are on fractional role, you are independent. You plan your work the way you want. What the organization wants is results within a certain deadline. So I could work twice a week, 3 times a week, I deliver. So currently I'm working for an NGO, and my main role is budgeting. I am supporting them with the budgeting, and the organization is out of Kenya. So it is a role, again, I like because I can do it virtually. I don't have to sit in the office. I can take even 3 or 4 roles virtually. How I do it is upon me. So that flexibility of fractional roles works perfectly for me. And it's a good retirement plan. 20 years, obviously, I'll soon be due for retirement. So definitely. When I thought about it, I thought that was the quickest method to jump in. And opportunities are there, but you have to know what is your niche. So for me, my niche is payroll, HRIS system, and a bit of employee engagement. For that is my niche, and I'm capable of that. And a bit of advisory, like now when we're doing budgeting. In INGOs, budgeting is important due to the donor funding. So that comes in, and then budgeting is for a period. The project has been identified. This needs to be budgeted. Within a month, the proposal has gone in. You have done the budget, you have done the staffing, and within 2 months, you're done. And you leave them implementing their project. So fractional HR roles for me work well, especially when you're looking into stepping out of active employment, but still being actively engaged in HR.
I know there's somebody who is listening to you and they're like, oh, Grace, how did you come to know about fractional? They're in that space where they feel like my skills are not utilized. I feel like I just need to get out of this 8 to 5.
Yes.
I just feel like I need a bit of freedom,
Yes.
where, sometimes 8 to 5 is, we are in a framework that even controls our results, right?
Yes.
They feel like I want a space where I can be open to give more results than what I'm doing right now. They're like, Grace, how did you think of this thing called fractional role? How did you get yourself to this fractional role? Just speak to this person. How did you transition? You have left your work. Did you know about fractional roles? Did you know how to transition? Or are you just lost? It's very good because somebody will be like, oh, I'm not lost alone. She was also lost. And yes, she's very excited with where she was. Just give a picture of how it was and how you got yourself into this space.
Okay, thank you. So when the redundancy happened, as you say, I was lost. I have been engaged for 20 years and I had not been in a job search. So for the first month, I decided to take a break. But having been active throughout, I was not able to totally take a break. So I used to go on the internet, I just went blindly. Actually, I was on social media, Facebook. I was just scrolling. Then I came across Career Coach, and Higher Advice was advertising. They were celebrating their achievements over the years. And I thought to myself, by the way, Higher Advice is a career coaching company. And I read what they were giving and I decided to get in touch with them. And that is how I learned about fractional HR. I was not aware of it. But what it taught me is that when something like that happens, speak up. And you don't have to speak up loudly, but open up your mind and then be positive and find a stepping stone. So for me, career coaching is what opened my mind to it. I honestly was not aware. And when I spoke to the team at Higher Advice and the career coaching that I got, they guided me. And to anyone who has started their journey, I think career coaching should not start at the end. You should start from the beginning. Because I learned through Higher Advice a fractional role. I would have maybe planned it well even before this redundancy. But I do not regret the journey I took. It was the right time. And career coaching has taught me a lot of the fractional role. I have received guidance because I did not know what fractional roles were. In HR, I had never actually heard of that word. But for me, that was a good landing. And the redundancy hit me quite well. But the career coaching quickly learned me to bounce back. So I learned it from career coaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What is the feeling of now doing fractional roles? You have flexibility of time, you have even flexibility of money because you have maybe one company today, but maybe in the next 1 week, 2 weeks, you might get another company on the list, right? Yes. How is that? How is the feeling of the flexibility? How do you feel generally?
First, I'm happy, I'm relaxed, I'm free, and I feel like a boss. It's me to call the shots. No? Yes, each company will tell you this is what we want. But it's up to you to say how far you can go. And then they look up to you to guide them. There's something about that feeling of my company, I am the boss. This is how things should be done. You don't have to follow a very rigid system. I am the system. I set my system. I set my rules. So I could decide I can only give you 2 days a week. I plan my work within that. I set my bills. So there's that flexibility. Then you don't have a burden over your shoulders. Because working with people is not easy. You work with so many people, different temperaments, different expectations. But now I am the one who calls the shots. So it's a good way to transition into retirement, which is something I feel I'll be able to do at different rates over the years. And I'm also learning. That is another element of fractional roles. Each organization has their structure. You have to learn on your feet. There is no time for induction. So that for me, I like that because I'm not stuck to the day. No. It changes every day. Company X, this is how they do it. Company Y, it brings some excitement. I think I'm almost jumping up just thinking of the joy I get. It's very fulfilling. For me, HR fractional roles are very fulfilling. They open you to the world. They open what you thought. There are things we have we don't know. It comes out. The resilience. So fractional roles are very good for one's career.
It just mentioned a bit of your health. I've just told you to give me a feeling of what you're feeling, especially when you've gone to fractional roles, right? You've talked about you're very fulfilled in what you're doing. You're talking about you're setting your own systems and your own structure. You're talking about you really feel like your creativity has been opened because you're not cocooned in a particular system and a particular structure, all right? What about your health? Any improvements?
I think since I left employment, I only went to get my teeth cleaned because I had not seen a doctor in so long. Why? Because you're relaxed, your body is relaxed, you're able to spend more time for yourself, even if you don't go to the gym, but there's a way you can take care of your health. So that atmosphere of being relaxed, mental stability, reflects on your overall health. Mm-hmm. Because common colds are common colds you could catch, but again, your immunity goes up because you're relaxed. So it has a positive effect on you.
That is on your well-being. Does it even have a positive impact, even the people around you, that is your family? You told me you're a mom, right?
Yes.
You are a daughter to somebody. You are a sister to some people, right? Does it, when you got the freedom, when you're now in this space where you feel like you're getting hold of yourself, right? Yes. Are you able to become closer to the people around you?
Yes, very close, and I have more time, and I notice now when I'm with them, I spend less time on my phone because every few minutes, is there an email which has come in? Does somebody need this? WhatsApp messages. I no longer receive those work-related WhatsApp messages because your mind would always be racing. You could be seated in one place, but your mind is racing. Is there an email? Is someone stuck at the airport? No more of that. So I have time for myself, I have time for my family, and I have time for other extracurricular programs, and I'm available. Yesterday, our church the ladies' ministry is organizing a retreat, and they wanted people to go and have a site visit. I was available. So now I'm available not only to my family, even to other activities which I am engaged in. Yes, so that flexibility is good, especially as you grow older. You need time for you don't need that too much rushing and running. You need a bit of slowing down and then more time with people around you. As we age, we realize what keeps us going is people who are with us, positive energy. So fractional roles help with that because you have time.
Grace, as we part short or as we close up, please, yes. Right? I just want you to talk to somebody who is feeling what you are feeling before you got the letter of redundancy, yes. Right? Somebody who is feeling like I'm stuck. Somebody who is even asking themselves, now retirement is almost coming. It's around the corner. What will I do after I retire? Somebody who is maybe at executive or towards executive, and they're like, I think I'm plateauing. And I don't know if I go to consultancy. I don't know if I go to business, which I don't have any experience and skills, right? Anybody who feels like they're stagnant and they have experience like the way you had, I just want you to have a whisper to them. What is that thing that you can talk to them?
Your skills will always remain with you. And the most important thing is identify what your niche is and network. Networking has worked well for me. When you have a good network, you're able to use your skills to advance. And through networking And through my career coach, I was able to learn how to apply the skills that I have by fractional roles. So ensure that you do networking, especially during your work life and more towards the end of your work life. Be prepared. Always be prepared. I learned when you're employed, be prepared. Have a plan B. And fractional roles would be a very good way to think about plan B. So I would not say I got it late. This was my right time. But anyone who is able to pick it right now, think of fractional roles, how it would apply, because if you have the skills and you want to give back to the society, as well as earn something from it, network and have a plan B like fractional roles, which will help you remain within your market, within your job group, but not have too much pressure. So plan B, network. Plan B, network. Those should always go together. You network as you have a plan B, which you will grow through your network. Yes.
The world is really moving so fast, and especially the employment world is really evolving very, very fast. If you are a professional and you have vast experience, can you disrupt yourself before the world does that? Remember, we created this particular show to celebrate professionals who are doing great works in their roles. If you know somebody who you feel like we want to celebrate this person, I want you to drop his or her name in the comment, and I'm going to look for that person and I'm going to bring that person in the show. If you like our content, if you love our content, I want you to like it, I want you to share it, and I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I want to promise you something. We're going to make it better and better for you. See you in my next video.